You can find all our major stories right here. We're tracking them. It's prime time in Lagos, Nigeria's commercial nerve center. A bomb attack happened in the afternoon of Tuesday, the 11th, in a market, killing 52 other people were injured in that attack in Borno State, in northeast of Nigeria. The president commiserates with the families of the dead. Population of IDPs in camps swells. Will the government fold its arms and watch the children at the camps become a burden to the nation? Another IDP in Edo State is being threatened in a move to send them back to the northeast. They resisted it. Where does their fate lie at the moment? What if harm comes their way under the watch of the government? Also, the president wants a total cleanup of Ogoni land, one of the most polluted environments in the world. Thoughts of a foremost environmentalist. He speaks to us much later in an exclusive interview. Will the efforts of the government pay off? Tweet at us starting now. This is State of the Nation. You're watching State of the Nation. I am Gimba Umar. The President Muhammadu Buhari orders the implementation of a Treasury single account, the TSA, which implies that no other government agency shall be allowed to operate bank accounts without the oversight of the Treasury and optimize government cash management. Mr. Lanre Fashion is an economist. He joins me first to have a better perspective of the issues. I want to thank you so much indeed for joining us at this time. Tell us, what is the single most effective results that we're likely going to see from the TSA campaign by Mr. President Muhammadu Buhari?
All right, for me, is the optimization of government cash. That is the most effective, the most apparent result that is going to be as a result of the Treasury single account. For that, with regards to that, if you take the case of the NNPC audit stroke probe, whatever we want to call it, you realize that one of the key issues that was found in that investigation was that the NNPC had so many accounts that even those in the finance department could not really tell how many accounts that they had. But with a single, with a Treasury single account, you see that everything is going to be clear. All the money that is accruing to the government is stored in one perfect place, and the government can effectively allocate this
I can imagine
to the programs they intend to implement for the government.
I can imagine that this. I can really imagine that this is going to control the government spending. But how is this expected to work?
The way it's expected to work, I mean, is that each of the MDAs, that is the ministry departments and the agencies, are going to have individual accounts, that is single accounts for each one of them. And all monies accruing to those agencies, to those departments and ministries will go directly into those accounts. So with those accounts available for both the CBN and even the government, they can sit at a particular spot and know that this is how much we have in this account, this is how much we have in this, no hidden account. And therefore, no money lying dormant in one special account that nobody knows of. Therefore, you also get true value for money in terms of deploying the money to actually carry out the policies and the promises, especially the promises of this government that has promised so much change and needs so much money to implement it.
Does this in any way question the prudence of the banks?
Well,
I mean, in handling the government's money so far.
No, it doesn't question the prudence. You mean the commercial banks? You mean?
Yes.
No. It doesn't question the prudence of the commercial banks in any way, because he who deposits monies into the bank has right to do whatever it likes to do with it. The bank is mainly for safe custody of money. When you go there, you collect your money back. End of bank services. It doesn't question them at all. All the single treasury accounts, the treasury single account is also going to be with. Ultimately with banks also.
How does this affect the monetary policy of the government?
Well, the monetary policy of the government, if we go to that institution of the government that is actually in charge of maintaining that or pursuing or managing the monetary policy of the government, you talk about the CBN, whose primary responsibility is monetary stability and price stability. Now, with Treasury single account, it blocks all the leakages as, I mean, most of the leakages, as I will want to say safely. And therefore, monies that could actually have been stolen and misappropriated, with, I mean, brought into the economy that will have created inflation and even the devaluation of the naira would also have been nipped in the bud. And therefore, what you see in the society is price stability and also monetary stability in terms of value of the naira. There's going to be an effect that, except you want me to break it down further down.
Sure, please.
All right then. What I would like to say is that, take for example, let's take the Niger Delta. There was a fund that was mentioned in the news this morning of about in excess of 300 billion, and it was found out that over 170 billion was misappropriated. A number of contractors were paid in excess of about 70 billion, all right, and they did not appear on site to do anything. Now, what does this mean? It means they have so much money in their hands to spend as they like within the society. Take, for example, they go to the open market that you and I go to, and they want to buy an apartment even in Ikoyi or VI. Well, the real value of the apartment is going for, like, say, 70 million naira. They have so much money, they can pay 150 without further negotiation. And therefore, this becomes the price within the society. And inflation begins to jump up because they can afford it. So with plugging all those ones, the monetary policy of the government will also be achieved. That is one. Number two is also that in terms of money laundering, when all these monies have been gotten, you get me, when all this money have been gotten through leakages in various accounts and misappropriation and corruption, all right, they bring it right into the society, into the economy, and try to do what you call money laundering in terms of maybe converting to dollars or converting the illicitly gotten naira to dollar, or dollar
the other way
to naira. Either way is money laundering. What happened
is this going to affect the interest rates?
The interest rate, definitely. When we begin to talk about surplus funds within the system, and you're talking about inflation, then definitely interest rates will definitely be affected. It will affect interest rates. It will bring about stability.
Interesting. Let me just put you on hold for a second or two, and let's talk to Mr. Johnson Chukwu. He's also an economist, joins us on State of the Nation. Thank you so much indeed for joining us at this time. Is this new move to peg the ATM withdrawal limit set at 60,000 naira and $300 a day in furtherance to aiding a cashless economy?
I think rather negate the cashless policy. I don't know what the central bank is, but I don't think it's the policy coming from the central bank. If it's coming from the central bank, I don't know what they are driving at. Basically, we are seeing a situation, reversals of the cashless policy in the immediate past. We saw recently that the central bank has said that the banks will no longer charge for excess withdrawal above those specified limits, or pay or tax customers that want to lodge in cash above those limits. And at the same time, you're also saying the customers can no longer use optimally their ATM by limiting the amount of money they want to withdraw. So automatically what you want to push that cash into the outside the banking system, and then you want to encourage or re-encourage the utilization of cash as means of payment in the country. I think that policy will negate the cashless policy.
Well, now let's look at the TSA. I can imagine the principle that the government should earn interest from its deposit and pay for all its services will be fully explored here.
Well, the basic thing that will happen is that once you reduce the liquidity in the system, because the TSA, that is the Treasury single account, will reduce available liquidity to the banks. So once you reduce liquidity to the banks, then their lending capacity will be constrained. So the implication is they're going to see a situation where the banks will no longer have as much liquidity as they used to have to lend. You are going to see a slowdown in liquidity in the banking system, and therefore a slowdown in lending, particularly to the private sector.
Does this in any way favor the government and the people of Nigeria to see that interest rates fall?
Well, in the first place, banks do not charge commissions of turnover on government accounts. So what is happening, because the banks we are enjoying float, or what you call float in the bank, that is, they had balances. they could invest and make money from. But given that the banks will no longer have that float, I think the banks will have to find ways of seeking for compensation from the government for managing their accounts. But as for the central bank, where the monies will be residing in, the central bank has always been the banker of the government. And ordinarily, because it will amount to charging from one government agency and paying the other government agency, I don't see the central bank making any charge on the balance that the government will have.
I want to thank you so much indeed, Mr. Johnson Chukwu, for spending your time with us. We'll keep tab with you as much as possible as we can. Many thanks indeed. Let me come back to you. Yes. What are your thoughts about the ATM policy of the government? Is this meant to help people or promote a cashless economy for Nigerians?
ATM withdrawal, actually, if you look at it, it's been revolutionary in Nigeria. I mean, you have sudden demand for money, and you can go to the ATM, which neither sleep nor slumber, if you want to say that, except for fault, and you have access to your funds. Now, in terms of the limitation on how much you can withdraw and also spend, it's also monetary management. Actually, I mean, on a daily basis, $300, what do you want to buy with it? I mean, ATM withdrawal is more like petty cash. It's just for you to run daily business. If you need big money to transfer, you go to the bank and you do the electronic funds transfer. Or if you need bigger cash, you go to the bank and you do your withdrawal or use your checkbooks. So the policy is good and it's all right.
Mr. Larry Fashino, I want to thank you so much indeed for your time and your thoughts. We're going to go on a short break and we'll be back with more interesting segments of the program. Stay with us.